What does this and the Lord's Prayer have to do with anything? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to show you how to turn this into bread. Stick around. For our potato rolls, I've got roughly 2 cups of mashed potatoes, and this is just mashed potatoes that have been boiled in nothing but water, and then I added a little bit of the water in there to it just to make them where they're a little bit more liquidy, so it's not just the potato itself but a little bit of water added in, not much. So like I said, 2 cups. This right here is roughly a solo cup full of the potato water that was left over with about a tablespoon of sugar, and then I kind of did that thing where after it cooled, I swashed it between 2 cups to kind of aerate it and let it sit overnight, and so now it's got some wild yeast in it. Now I'm adding in a half cup of that wild yeast water. Now when you do this, the rest of that you could put into ice trays and freeze it, and then just put in an ice cube or 2. Or if you don't want to do this, you can definitely use 2 teaspoons of bread yeast. The reason why I did this is because back at the start of this whole supply chain disruption nonsense, yeast was one of the first things that went away, and everybody was freaking out, and I was like, why not use wild yeast? And I was amazed at the number of people who don't know how to use wild yeast. And we're still having problems, and stuff just doesn't show up at the store that would normally be showed up at a store, including yeast sometimes. So if you ever have a problem, this is how you use wild yeast. So I've got some non-fat milk. I'm probably going to put about, I'd say, 2 tablespoons or so in here. Okay, and now I'm going to use 1 egg. This is actually from my father-in-law's chickens, so we'll do that. What's neat is this is actually February, and my father-in-law is still getting eggs. He is not, as far as I know, he has not lost his egg production at all during the winter. And he uses Tractor Supply feed, but what we was talking about is that all people are upset with Tractor Supply right now in the feed. They're using 100% feed normally. They're not supplementing their chickens' diet with other things, and so yeah, the feed is not going to allow them to have enough nutrition to lay the eggs. You've got to supplement your chickens and give them a varied diet. You need a varied diet, so do chickens. And so he feeds his chickens multiple things, from leftover vegetable scraps and yard clippings to who knows what, and he has some of the best eggs. Now I've got a half cup of melted butter, and a half cup is 8 tablespoons or 1 stick, and I'm using salted butter. This way I'm going to not add as much salt, but this will also be better incorporated. I'm adding in a half cup of sugar. Now we're going to use all-purpose flour. We're going to do 4.5 to start out with and see how this works, and I'm going to add about a teaspoon of sea salt to this as well. And for these applications, I like to use just a good quality sea salt. So right now I'm using McCormick's, but any good sea salt will work. Now, what gets me with a lot of these baking shows is that they talk about salt is needed as a regulator. Why do you really want to regulate yeast? That's not the reason why you do it. The whole purpose behind salt in bread, and also to some degree the oil in bread, is flavor. Otherwise, why are you doing it? Now, I will argue that yeast do need proteins. They do need to have fats. And so that is the reason why they tend to do better in higher fat, higher protein recipes. However, like with the egg itself will actually cause the yeast to have some issues. And so that's the reason why I don't use 2 eggs like most recipes do. Okay, I've done about all I can with the spoon. Now I'm going to go in my hands. I won't show that. If I need to add any moisture, which I don't think I will, but if I do, I'll add some of the potato water since it has our wild yeast. And that's only going to help things out a little bit. You like to have a more wet dough than not. So I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Well, it did take a full extra spoon, or sorry, half cup of flour. Now, you can see this is kind of a sticky dough, but when I roll it up into a ball, it doesn't, it wants to stick to my hands, but it gives. And if you pull it, there's not that elasticity from your gluten. You're not going to get that. And you can see it's trying to stick a little bit to the wet parts of my hand, but dry parts of my hand it's not sticking. And so the reason for this is that it's got starches that are kind of impeding to some degree the gluten strains. And so when it rests, these starches will kind of do like cornstarch. If you ever done little cornstarch experiments with water, it firms up and hardens, and then it relaxes and becomes liquidy. And that will cause this to be a very moist roll when I'm done. Now, if I were doing potato bread and not doing potato rolls, or if I was doing potato buns, like what would go on a hot dog or a hamburger or something like that, then I would go with a good quality unbleached bread flour with a high protein ratio in it that would allow you to get that stretchiness and everything that you need out of it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let this sit. I'm going to cover it with some plastic wrap and put it in the oven, just let it sit. But you can see where I take my thumb, it just breaks apart like that. That's the way it looks. It's different than regular bread dough. Don't expect it to be like regular bread dough. It won't be. But I'm going to let this sit for a few hours. Let this rise. So after it rises, then we'll punch it down, and I'll pinch off some pieces like this, and I'll kind of roll it around my hands like this. Nothing big. And then I'll shape it into some balls, and then once it's in a ball shape, I'll leave it out to rise again for what they call second proof. After I do a second proof, then we'll bake, and then I'll cover it with some butter. So that's pretty much it. I'll see you in a short. Okay, so now our dough has doubled. Time to punch it down, roll it in balls, and let it set out so it can rise again. I've got the oven preheating to 380 degrees. Sorry about that, but you can see I'm pushing it down. It's doubled in size, so it's ready. Now what I'll do is I'll pinch off a piece. You want something that fits kind of in the palm of your hand, about a little smaller than a baseball, and work it around, and then you'll make a dough ball. Okay, I got 14 of these. If I had partitioned them off better, I probably could have got a little bit more, but that's pretty good. I like to set them kind of close to each other so that when they rise, and they'll rise in the oven even more, they'll stick together. Now I'm going to cover them with a little bit of milk coating. Okay, so these are covered in milk. And I'm going to let these sit for a little bit so that they can rise. Okay, it's time to put these in the oven. Okay, we'll let these go in for about, I'd say 20 minutes for now and see how they look. These are done and looking delicious. Now it's time to put some butter on them. Dear God, tell me that don't look good right there. Well, here we have a wonderful roll here, nice little potato roll, and we're going to give it a try. Can you see steam coming off of it? My goodness. It's so good. I tell you what, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed and you're watching to the end, why haven't you? Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you again next time.